Okay, my friends, this is what I live for. I just did a video on Alaska and Mount Spur and the Aleutian chain and the volcano system that's up there. And there was and the eruptions and so forth. And immediately I got two people that are on Vancouver Island, or British Columbia, whatever it is, near Vancouver. And they said they had a strong earthquake there yesterday. I guess it was yesterday. But after the Atka earthquake, which is way up on the Aleutian chain, could they possibly be related? I think they are. And I'll show you why. And this right here is where we're going to start. I want you to take a look at that. And I want you to start to think carefully about what I'm going to explain to you. Because my claim has been for many years now that there's nothing but biology. The whole world is made out of it. I didn't do it. I don't think. It's just here. Now, but I have had unbelievable time at having people to be actually able to see what cannot be dismissed. Now, it takes a few minutes to do it. It's not something you just look and say, oh, yeah, he's right, everything's fine, go home and then have dinner. No. If you're thinking, you're gonna be thinking. So, I don't see a lot of thinkers. I got to be honest with you. The people that are on my channel, there's a couple thousand. They come and they're here. And that's it. I got 220,000 people, something like that. Where are they? I know they're not advertising my videos, and I know they're not even notifying people. Why? I don't know. But I know, because I subscribe to my own channel just to see if I get notifications. I don't get them. Nobody else does either, so I don't know. We got to look for reality somehow. Okay, this is fabulous. I've been posting about Mount Spur and the eruptions and Scorpzilla and all that stuff, which is crazy to most people. But listen to this. Somebody named Zanib sent me this. Said, "Hi Roger, following your recent video on Mount Spur, the following reference will interest you." Credit goes to question and answer AI. Amerindian tradition, local Alaskan legends. Listen to this. Traits. Alaska's indigenous peoples, Denali, Aleuts, the Denalians near Mount Spur, tell of giant animals or spirit shaping the landscape. Giant animals or spirits shaping the landscape. A broader example, the Tingis Ravine creates landforms, though not via burial. So they didn't bury them, they just laid there, dead. Now, it fits for Mount Spur, a hypothetical Denali giant or spirit buried after a cosmic battle could explain Mount Spur's rise, its eruptions signaling unrest. Well, I can't totally rule that out. And then they go down to say the Aztec tradition, Sipacati, trace. Sipacati is a primordial earth monster in Aztec cosmology, crocodile fish hybrid from which the world is formed. The gods Tezcatlipoca and Quetzalcoatl, I think they were brothers, tear it apart. Its body becomes land, its back the mountains. Popol Vuh influenced narrative amplify this. It's not buried post-creation, but is inherently tied to Earth's surface. It's just part of Earth's surface. Fit for Mount Spur, Sipacati's segmented body could be imagined as forming mountain ranges with Mount Spur and a volcanic spine. Aztec myths don't emphasize burial, but the earth connection and monstrous size fits a geological origin story. Volcanism might reflect its restless spirit or its decaying body. It's a decaying body, or it could be a restless spirit. I can't say no. This is it's stunning. This is just stunning stuff. Not only that, this whole thing here, where you see the white, is feeding that pincher. I looked at this very, very carefully, and I can make that statement with almost absolute certainty. All of this is the digestive system for spur. And then down here is where it creates the venom. Now let's look at spur. Again, is a cloaca. And here's Mount Spur. Okay, when it erupts, it flows down here through this channel here. And then it comes out and makes a hard turn to the right. Now, as it comes down, other stuff comes in and mixes with it, but it keeps the actual poop, the brown stuff. I'm not telling you. I want to see some sample of this. I want to talk to Matt Haney, and he's agreed to talk to me. He seems like a nice guy. And I'd like to see samples of what this is versus these other things. What is that flow made of? And these are all separate flows of different biological things that are coming out of this digestive system. This is not normal. I don't know. Well, I don't know what kind of creature this is. I call him Scorpzilla. This is because he's got a scorpion tip. And right there is the sphincter muscles that turn off the fluids. And then they urinate together, and that comes down, and if it was a bird, it would land on your windshield. And then it comes out here, and then, in this case, it lands in Cook Inlet. Now, remember I showed you those freaky-looking things? All of this is crazy-looking stuff when you get into it, but let me just show you the absolute insane stuff. Anybody that's been with Mudfossil University for any length of time understands this is biology. And look at this. Look at that. Look at the whole thing here. Now, what it's doing here, I'm not sure. Is it somehow pulling toxins out of Cook Inlet, or is it pushing them in? I don't know. But look at these. There's a bunch of these, not just one. And it comes in and it snakes all the way up here, no pun intended. This is some kind of reptile, snake, or Scorpzilla, I call them. Now, look at what happens. Something's going on without here. This is some kind of, I don't know what. But it's fluids that have some definition to them. Let's just go with that. This seems to come out and sort of mate up more or less. You see another abrupt transition. Everybody knows the abrupt transitions. What did this do? This looks like it's feeding in instead of going out. I think these things are absorbers. You see how it's big here and it gets smaller up there? I would think that it's absorbing from this, whatever this stuff is, and sucking it all up and bringing it through these channels up to somewhere. I don't know. I really just don't know at this point. Normally you'd see these things running down and draining this way, but I just don't know. When I see thick here and then thinner way out here, I think that it's being pumped this way. I don't know. Again, I just don't know. These are the questions that need to be answered, but we need to get soil samples, we need to get ash samples, we need to get the gases, the different gases, we need the water samples, bacterias, enzymes that are in here, try to figure out what's going on. I mean, I got to be honest with you, there is nothing you can do about this. It's way too late, because the Arctic regions are thawing, and either they're collapsing or they're exploding. It depends on where you are. The Russian one, I actually talked to the Russians. They contacted me because I was doing a sinkhole research, and they asked me about the gigantic exploding sinkhole that was out there in 2014. It just exploded instead of sunk in, and it was because the tundra is thawing, just like us. This is way thawing. And as it does, it loses its rigidity and either goes in or pops out. In that case, it popped out. And then a couple weeks later, a whole bunch of them collapsed in because it let off the pressure, which was holding everything up, and then they all just dropped in. So we got the same situation here up at Spur, but Spur is decomposing underneath, but the decomposition is accelerating because it's like you left your freezer door open. And all of this biology that was a creature alive at one time was pretty well frozen and preserved. But now that they're heating up, it's just expanding. And they know the methane gases are absolutely belching everywhere, basically in the world, and they are devastating. They're much, much, much worse than carbon dioxide. There's nothing you can do about it because it's decomposition. You can't stop it from decomposing because you need to refreeze it, and it's not going to happen. So all of this from here down this is the venom part. This is what I didn't realize. This is the venom. All going out to the Aleutian chain for the pincher. And you say, what pincher? Well, there's the pincher right there, or stinger, or whatever you want to call it. But all of this stuff is volcano activity based around these toxic juices. Let me turn this around so you can see what I'm talking about. And I'll show you Scorpzilla is absolutely staggeringly large. It goes all the way from here in California. And the beard is right here. His beard is Crowley Lake columns. I'll show you those too. They all seem to have beards. And he runs all the way up. This is his shoulders. All the way up to here. And to me, it looks like this is probably digestive system stuff in here. Because that would be normal for a creature. But past Mount Spur, it's different. Here you go into Venom. And I think it's starting to be created up here because there's a mess going on up here. And this is where all that earthquake rattling is going on up here. So Mount Spur may not erupt. I may be wrong. I was going with Mount Spur being eruption, but now that I'm starting to think about it, it could just be we're shooting venom because out at the other end of way out here, it erupted. Atka. And that was only 2 days ago or a day ago. So this is a different system. That's what confused me. And this is the pincher. You want to see a pincher? Here it is right there. Or squirter, or whatever you want to call it. And when it died, it squirted all that stuff all over and just laid right there. You see that? That's squirted from the squirter, or whatever you want to call it. Now, this would retract back up in here, and it would lay into this webbing looking stuff. So this whole thing would retract back up into here. So the pincher would be sticking out here somewhere. This would be stretched muscle at that point, stretched back, way back here. That's the pin that it pivots on. This is the pocket that it sits back into. When it would get triggered, the muscle would pull because it would be out here to pull, and it would force the pincher to do a little shot into the guy. Now, what can you say about that? All you can say is it's biology, and that's why all of this stuff is erupting. It's a totally different system than Spur. So, is Spur going to erupt? This is what I was saying, absolutely no question, no problem, in the next couple of days she's going to pop like a cork. But they weren't seeing what they would normally see at the top. So I assumed, and probably mistakenly, that it was expanding underneath and making all these little earthquakes above Spur, north of Spur. But I think now it's all related to the juice going to the pincher. And again, I know this is freaky as hell, but what can I say? It's these, and it's not just this one, they're all over the place. I started by discovering the one in North Africa, which is recorded in the ancient texts. It's called Typhon. And he was attacking Ares, which was a fish. And they are laying there in the desert. I'll show you those now to back myself up. But this is for Matt Haney, so he understands what's going on up here. And that is what's going on. Let's look into it one more time. Remember, I assumed, and I don't, like I said, I don't know if I was right or wrong. But here we go. Here's Alaska. All these earthquakes are basically scattered up in this area. And that's where it's, I believe, making its juices. I think this is all juicification up here. And this area over here is from the digestive system. Although I can't tell. I don't know. All I know is that's a cloaca spur. And that's his pincher right out there. And that's when he died and squirted that stuff out. What it was doing up here, and everything is so much different than we ever could have imagined, and it's been a very difficult thing for the most educated people to even stop to talk. That's why I was a little aggressive with Matt Haney, but he was very nice. This is the kind of guy I think I could work with. I'm hoping. He said he's perfectly willing to speak. But you have to see this before you can speak about it. Because you can't say, hey, there's a gigantic dragon up there laying there, and he's going to say, okay, yep, have a nice day, see ya. And that's what did happen before. But I have the evidence. The evidence speaks for itself. So you have to see the evidence and then go. Remember I told you Crowley Lake? You want to see what his beard looks like? Okay, I know what I just showed you freaks most people out completely. But it just happens to be true. And this is just one gigantic creature all the way down. This, I believe, is all part of his body. It's a good-sized creature. And this is his head, and that's his eyeball. And right there is Crowley Lake, where he has his beards. And here they are. Whoops, this is a membrane. I'm going to show you another shot of that in a second. But this is Crowley Lake. These are his hairs. Crowley Lake has eroded all of the stuff down, and we can see the hairs. The black is vein blood, and the red is artery blood. This is a red-blooded creature, and this is normal to see this kind of powdery skin where hair pops up through. It's bentonite and kaolin clays, in our type of creature. Now, here's it's coming up above the top. See it? These are hairs. Or beard in this case. And there's no sweat glands, which you would have sweat glands if it was a normal mammalian. And you see this stuff all over the place. This isn't even up in Alaska or in North Africa. This is right in our own Midwest. And it's covered with these Moki marbles, which are these little black balls everywhere, because they have eroded out. They say, oh, they're just concretions. No, they're not. They were anchors of skin. And I can show you that because it's happening in Alaska now because they're thawing out. You see these? These are exactly like the Moki marbles. Only the key here is this is all thawing out now. And these were skin anchors. I'm going to explain it to you in a second. And inside of body fluids, even in us, there's literally plant life living in us. And that's what starts to make things grow and fester and everything, is the biology underground, anaerobic. It's not being touched by oxygen. These things are trying to grow and they fester. Well, these are open so they can just grow. But you see how many balls there is here? There's not just one or two, 100% of them. 100%. That's 1 and 2 zeros and a percent. Every one of those is covered with this green moss. This is right up next to Mount Spur too. And inside that green moss is one of those black balls. Well, eventually it'll be black after they eat everything that's around it. That ball right there in the center will be what's left over after they eat all the meatball. These things just come out of the ground like meatballs, and they eat them, and then they left over with the Moki marbles, which they're all over the Midwest. They're everywhere around the world. It's just everywhere. And some of them are absolutely stunningly large. All right, here's the whole thing in one shot. This is what flesh looks like with the open bags so your skin can plump back up. This is the collagen, the pink stuff, and the brown stuff is the springs, and the black stuff is the balls. Everything here will erode away. And of course, there's the skin up there. The hairs would be sticking up, or the beard in Scorpzilla's case. All of that would erode away if it was being washed by water. And what would happen? All of this stuff would turn into mud, and the black balls would be laying on the ground, which is exactly what you see here. This is how enormous these creatures were. These, they call them stromatolites. They didn't just all pop up here and start growing here for no reason. These balls are eroding onto these walls. This is why I have never had a single person respond back to me from USGS or any of the universities or anything. And I can show this over and over and over, and nobody would allow it to be seen. And Matt Haney is a different situation. I applaud him for responding. Now, these are the Moki marbles. They're the same as this, only all the stuff was eaten and it's just what's left over. Now, some of them are big, some of them are smaller. Simple as that. In us, they look just like this. These are Moki marbles in a person's body. You see this? This is skin, or it's a membrane or whatever. It's this here. And then right below is all of the Moki marble balls. These are the same balls as you see here. And once they erode, they're the same ball as you see there. And this eroded, and this fleshy part turns into mud, as you see here. This has eroded, and all the mud has just flowed away during erosion. Like I said, this stuff is everywhere. Oh, this is flat irons. They just happen to be that way. No, they don't. There's a guy standing down here. He's supposed to be a top geologist, and he's looking at this thing saying, wow, how did that happen? I said, Myron, what do you think about this? He said, oh, that's just flat irons. They don't mean anything. Now, I showed you Scorpzilla's beard and the balls that are right up near Spur. And this is Typhon, the dragon. He goes all the way across North Africa. I'm sorry, these things were absolutely stunningly large. And this is Ares, the fish. This is written. Yeah, they wrote about that. Now, it was written about in Apollodorus 1.6.2 and 3. You just look it up. Apollodorus 1.6.2 and 3. And they talk about Hercules and all of the giants and creatures and the dragons and monsters. And this is Ares the fish, who is a god that turned himself into a fish to try to avoid Typhon. Typhon got him with his great and mighty blast of nastiness. And this is just what happened. I'm not making this up. If you can put up a defense, I want to hear it. Now, this is my friend Tyson out on the West Coast, Oregon. This is part of Scorpzilla, I'm sure. This is membrane. Membranes are what they call bilipid, means two phospholipid membranes, phosphorus and lipid membranes. And there's the bottom layer, and there's the top. This is 6 feet thick. In us, you can hold it up and you look right through it like a window pane. These are the channels that allowed proteins and different foods and stuff like that to go in and out of the body. All these little ridges around here, you see them, all those little ridges? The only reason they're there is because at one time they had glue all over the top of it. It was mucous membrane, mucus. And that mucus was in there to keep from anything penetrating to get through that membrane. A membrane is a separation zone, and that is a pretty thick membrane. Now, what it was separating, I don't know. He's up in, it's in Oregon. I think it's Salem or somewhere up in that area. He's done a fabulous job at researching this stuff. And, of course, the same thing. Nobody would pay any attention, so I haven't talked to him in a while, but he did a fabulous job, and he knows what he's talking about. So somebody should get a hold of Tyson Carlson. He's right there on site. He could help out with this. Although, you know, what are you going to do? It is what it is. It's just got to be accepted. And then everybody start looking around. And all the people that are with me, they were looking around now. They're just flabbergasted every day. I call it shocker du jour. And that happens every single day because there is so much. And here's Yellowstone. That's nothing but a creature's body. This is basaltic melt. And basalt is collagens and kerogens. because they're in the lungs. The lungs are fabric bags like this, and they do this all day long. And that's basically all there is, and blood. All right? Then you go up into the throat and all that stuff, where it leads up into the caldera, which is bubbling like crazy, letting all that heat come out. And that's rhyolithic material, which is different than basalt. It's more into the bloody structural tendony area. And then I think you got a heart and so forth up in here. And this is enormous. This is up in Yellowstone. Our west, Vermilion Cliffs and all that stuff, absolutely stunning. It's just gigantic creatures. And we don't have to go get any natural resources from anybody. I know where all the resources are. I know exactly where they are. I've been a little quiet about that because I hate to see people taking advantage of things. But anyway, this is the biolipid layer, and this is exactly what I just showed you. Tyson's got this stuff. And he's gone out, he's done his work. He's got a drone, he's got the microscopes, and he's a farmer guy. He's got a little gruff, but that's what he is. He's smart enough to think, and that is rare. It's dismissal instantaneous, just like that. No matter how much evidence you come up with, it's just denied. And I understand it's because academia has destroyed the minds of literally everybody. If you don't say what they tell you to say, they will give you a piece of paper that says you were not able to repeat what we told you to say. We're going to keep your money, and we're going to tell everybody you're an idiot. What are you going to do? You repeat what they say. And so everybody has to say it, and it's called peer review. If you step out of that box, you are done. And trust me, you are done. I've never been in that box, so I went in my own box, and I was happy in my own box, and I still am. But it's frustrating, and it can make you a little bitter after a while, many years. But I think I am finally seeing the end of the tunnel. But it's also going to be the end of a lot of things, I think. All right, so this could be good news if I'm right, because up here is Spur's area, which is a completely separate system. It's a digestive system. This is a toxic venom system, and this seems to be the most active. And it just exploded out here. And it is rising. I believe this is rising 6.1 centimeters a year. And sooner or later it's got to pop because it has no way to shoot out that squirter anymore. That squirter is probably plugged up at the end. Now, this is just festering. I don't know if it's producing any more. But whatever it's doing, it's sitting there festering. Almost anything, when it warms up, it will boil. And the worse chemistry, the more reactive the chemistry is, the more reactive the decay will and the decomposition will be, which creates more and more gases and nasty, terrible things. Who knows what it can create? Who knows what this is? But it's time to at least open your mind enough to not assault me for saying these things. And that's what's happened. I mean, you wouldn't believe it. From the people we trusted to look at the evidence, evidence means nothing. So Trump, Goach, I want to see him straighten this out. So we have to sort of give everybody a new understanding of geology, which is biology. And I reported all this stuff to Yale, and that's the other thing. I want to see that straightened out, and that's going to be very interesting. All right, I love you all, my friends, and all I can say is we got what we got, and the people that open their eyes and see what's in front of their eyes are going to be, I think, better off than the people that just are perfectly happy, deluded. And that's been the case behind those ivy-covered walls. That's why they give them those PhDs. All right, I love you all. Bye. Like I say, this is exciting. When I have people kicking in, asking me questions, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? That's all I can ask for. Now, otherwise I would never be able to get this information. I can't do all this myself. I need people to help me and look and question and think. Now, this happened at north of Vancouver. They say about 2 hours drive north of Vancouver. Not sure, but I'm looking in that area. Now, It was a 4.8 magnitude. They said it went up to about a 5.1. It fluctuated up to about 5.1. They're unclear if there's any damage, yada, yada, yada. Now, what caused that earthquake? Is this something serious? Is it going to really pop? That's a pretty good size earthquake, 4.8. 5.0, that's good size. You know, a 5.0 is basically in the middle of the disaster end and the real tremor end. So 5.0, you'd want to be considering what is the possible implications here. So let's see if we can consider those by checking out this terrain. Okay, I think I'm in the area that they were talking about, and we're about a mile and we're on a mile up, looking down at this area, and you know, a mile's not that far, so you can see all these little blocky things. What the heck is going on there? It looks like cities or something, ruins, and it's everywhere. It's all over the top of this hill. So let's back out here and see what we see. Look, it's everywhere. And then you got these things here. What's going on there? What's going on there? And these little outcrops, basically. Now, as you know, I always point to these colors, and where they change colors pretty quickly. You know, what's going on? Why this is all red here? Probably some kind of houses or shipping or something. No, I don't know. I have to look at that a little closer, but it's biology. Oh, they're wood. They're doing some wood here. I don't know what they're doing. Anyway, this is the kind of thing you have to do. You got to start searching around. I would. It's obviously they're taking lumber out of here. It appears. But this is kind of strange looking waterways. These aren't the kind of just little runoff rivers. And the colors are quite obviously there's something biological, which when I say biological is, oh, that's just different bacteria. That's why that one's blue, and that one's real green, and that one's not quite so green, and that one's lighter green, and then there's brown ones and yellow ones and all kinds of different colors. Look at all these different colors. Why should they be there? Look at this. Now here's Vancouver, and I said a couple miles north. North is straight up this way. I mean a couple hours. I don't know where they're talking about, but somewhere up in this area. But this whole area up here is biological. And I'm just telling you that. I have no doubt whatsoever in my mind. And this is part of this giant creature's back. And you see, look at the different colors and so forth. This is all different biology. Now, when we come off of here, now I'm going to turn them around because you can see it. This is Scorpzilla. It runs all the way up, and there's this pincher. Or stinger, or whatever you want to call it. People scream at me, no, that's a pincher, that's a, I don't know what it's this little injector. Now, there's Vancouver. That's on his shoulder. There's his head. And right down here is Crowley Lake, which is nothing but dragon beard. As a matter of fact, I think I have a picture of it here somewhere. Yeah, right there. That's Crowley Lake. Those are the beards coming out. And the red and the black means this black and red is the colors of blood, the two different oxygen states. And this is the type of texture of the soft part of your skin that can move and flop around, like where, you know, like your facial skin and stuff like that. And then the hairs go with it until it died, and now the hairs are just laying there. But they're sticking up through the top, you see it? Here they are right here. But they're all stubbled off now. So that's Crowley Lake. That's on the tip of his nose. Look at the size of these things. All right, so now, we just saw Crowley Lake. These things are all over. We have dragons just everywhere around the earth. Just take it and live with this, or just go away and forget about it. This right here, they call these flat irons. They say, oh, they're everywhere. Yes, they are, because the dragons are everywhere. There's a guy standing down here, Myron Cook, I think was his name. And he's looking at this like it's a big deal. And I said, Myron, what about this? He said, oh, that's nothing, they're everywhere. I said, I know. I said, what? Oh, yeah, it just happened because of, and then he draws all these little things and he talks like he's talking to a 3-year-old and oh, it does. And everybody goes, oh, Myron, you're such a genius. Look at this. Look at the size of these things. This is the inside of his throat. This is his last meal. He's down here. He's running a drone. You can't even see him. He's at Somalia. He's down there somewhere. And he said, how would this thing get there? Why is this thing here? Well, why is this here? That's my question. Anyway, let's get back to Scorpzilla. All right, so I named him Scorpzilla because he's a scorpion thing, and he's bigger than Godzilla. This is just so enormous. It's like 3,000 plus miles long. This is his head and his nose. Right there was a Crowley-like beard. And you see the green? That indicates a transition zone between his body and the other stuff that was under his body when he died here. And here's the body out here, and here's Vancouver Island. This is his shoulder, or his wing, or whatever. And it looks like it came way out to here, and then it came back and down in this area. Now, here's something that's very interesting now. All of this up in here has all of those colored rivers and everything like I was talking about. And I originally said this had to be something that fed all the way out to, because this is all basically the same colors and rivers and all that and so forth. Now, but I was confused because I wasn't putting the two systems together. It also has a system where it has to poop and get rid of its, urine and poop and all that, like just any other creature. They all do it. However, this one has to set up a good ton of juice to squirt out through his injector here, which I have shown very clearly. I'm going to show it again today. I'm going to show it 1,000 times until somebody pays attention. Now, this gives us two separate zones of eruptibility. Spur is the digestive system. This is the venom system. And I think it runs all the way up to here. And at Etka volcano out there exploded a couple of nights ago. I talked to Matt Haney. Well, I didn't talk to him, but I communicated with him. He said he was doing an interview, and we talked later about, because Etka just erupted. Now, I had been looking at Spur, and I said, this is imminent. This thing's going to go off, no question about it. I was really 100% certain. Then I started to realize that I'll explain it as we go along, but it boils down to there's two separate systems. One of them is the injector fluids, and when this one blew out, I think Vancouver Island has to send a little more in, and it shook them and just squirted it in there, basically. Because this one blew out, and the next day this one blew out. Well, shook. There was no big thing going on there. It's just, I think, pushing some more juice into there, or it was released. The pressure was released. Let me put it that way, because the whole system would be under pressure. If you had pressure here, you're going to have it here. If this is one big system, pressure here means pressure here. If that depressurized, that would depressurize. That's my take. Okay, anytime you have a coastline and the waters are washing in against biology, it's going to just erode it. And the balls and the heavy rock type things that are the anchors inside the body end up collecting on the beach. And of course there'll be membranes, there'll be all of that. And you'll be able to see them in layers. Now, I'm going to back off of here. We're up off the coast of Oregon. And I have a friend, Tyson Carlson, that's up there. He does fabulous work. He's done a real good job. He's got a drone, all that stuff. I'll probably mention him a few more times. And I'm going to show you some of the stuff he does. And he's all of his own expense, in the interest of trying to understand it. And he does. He understands it because he's done the work. Now, I don't know exactly where he was up here. I haven't talked to him in a while. But this is biology. There's no question in my mind. It's 100% certain. Now, like I say, at the edges of oceans is where erode. So what would you expect to see? If the skin erodes, you have membranes under the skin. Is there membranes there? Well, yes. All right, some people might not know what a membrane is. Probably not a lot of people. But it's a layer like this of phospholipids, and another one down here, and it has watery substance. One of them is a hater of water, and one of them is a lover of water. So they have a little separation to them. And these channels will only let stuff come in that is accepted by your body that wants it. Otherwise, they keep them out. They're protein channels. And this is a membrane, has a little squiggly thing. They got all kind of little things going on in them. But these are primarily what you're going to see in Tyson's shot. And, of course, all these little bumps. Now, all those bumps have to be able to move like this, but they cannot be penetrable. What they're showing here is not really accurate. This is a mucus membrane. What does that mean? There's all kind of gooey stuff all over it. So it flops like this, but you can't get through it. That's like a rubber mat covering all this stuff, or at least surrounding them. And I'll show you. It's very, very easy to see in Tyson's shot. All right, I just showed you what a membrane looks like. It has two layers. And they have these things here. And then up above, they would have another layer. Ooh, look at that. There's the other layer. It's at least 6 feet apart. 6 feet, the layer. Now, why did I say there's gooey stuff on here and I can prove it? Because of this. You see all the ridges around these? Originally, when this was alive, that was all filled with goo. These stuck up because there's all the enzymes are collected in here. And they are the attackers that break down food or kill invaders. And that's where they are. And they call it, these are junctions. Wherever they get together, they have to be able to do this, but they can't do that. Right now, they are like this. You're done. You're dead in about 32 seconds, 33. What's all these little edges here? That's where the glue, it's just like it would be glued to all of these. And it's what's called tight junctions. You have to have tight junctions. You've got to be able to move, but they should be not open where something can get through there. That's when you get sick. Membrane is supposed to protect you from invasion. And this is it. So coming down this way, I'm sure, because it washes the skin away, all the way through the skin and the scales or whatever it had, all the way down to the membrane, which is supposed to protect you from invasion. It already ate through that first membrane, now into the second one. And down here is the vital flesh of whatever it is. So that would be interesting to see what is exactly the chemistry of it, or what it's made of, or can you see anything extra about that? Like I said, I haven't talked to Tyson in a while, and but it's Tyson's Mudfossil Adventures. Now he's sort of going a different way, so we're I haven't like anyway. This is what it does. It washes away. And the balls drop. All right, just follow this through. This is Scorpy's back. This is dragon scales. Because he's some kind of an avian dragon, something like that. Now, we're pushing in from this abrupt transition, which is literally the the arteries, which all these green things are where the artery blood comes down. And it's pushing it down through into the capillaries. You see these? These are capillaries. The green blood comes down and it ends up spewing all through these little tiny capillaries. And then it gets collected up. See all that? This is an artery. That's an artery coming down, feeding all these little capillaries. Look at over here. That's not just a natural runoff of something. How can anybody not, it's crazy that all this stuff is just fluffed off. It's like it's nothing. Oh, that's just runoff, and of course it turns green. Well, I'm not dismissing that, but I'm telling you right now, there's a lot more going on than just a runoff of water from rain and some minerals. You can see the architecture here. I mean, just look at it. Yes, it runs off, absolutely, but it's running off of some dragon scales. And they have to be fed with blood. That's where you're going to see the green. And look at them. Look at this. It's just everywhere. It's not just one here and one there. They look like rows of apartment buildings. So anyway, this is what we got out here. And that's right. That's Scorpzilla way down here. All right, this is Scorpy. He runs all the way down. I think this must be part of him too. This is a big guy, almost full grown. And that's his body. And then, of course, Spur is up here, and the whole Aleutian chain is his injector tail. And that is his injector. Right there. It squirted out. When he died or he was killed or whatever happened to him, I don't know. He's here. That's all I can tell you. That squirter squirted that stuff out right there. You see? Follow it. And it squirted out. I don't think it's doing it anymore. I think it's plugged up here. And it's trying to release its decomposing biology here with all these volcanoes. There's about a zillion volcanoes here. I mean a ton of them. And they come all the way back up and then they hit Mount Spur. And it basically sort of stops. But Spur is not part of this system. So Spur's rattling could have nothing to do, with Spur itself. It could be because of the discharge of this, which did erupt down here 2 nights ago, and then it erupted over here on Vancouver Island yesterday. And I think this is what squirts this stuff down. So, like I say, I think I told you before, if it releases pressure here, it's going to release pressure there. You're going to get a little jiggle. But I don't think it's anything I don't know. I have no idea, to be honest with you. But that's what my conclusion would be based on everything that I'm seeing here. And I'm also saying it's possible now that Spur will not be any kind of an issue, but that's also speculation. I don't know. They said they're not seeing the typical buildup of gases and this and that at the cresting part or the top of the volcano. But they're seeing way up north of it. Well, not way up, but it's north of it. And there's so much biology up north of there. It's just incredible. And this is where it starts to juice down. And if it juiced somebody, they would be juiced. You're not going to get out of that one. And this is where the thing rolled back up in here. You see it? The pin is right here, where my finger is. And this thing would have gone zip right back into that pocket. It would have wrinkled back. This is the muscle. It would have stretched back here, so the muscle would be like a rubber band. And the pin would be, the injector would be somewhere out here. Pow! Case is closed. I don't think there's too many creatures could fend this thing off. And you can see, it's just the injector is right here. This mountain right here, this mound, right there. I showed the elevation, minus 892 meters below the water. But look at over here, minus 1,570, minus 3,700. So this thing is very, very thick stinger. Pincher, stabber, jabber, whatever you want to call it. And that would have rocked right back in there and case would be closed for that guy. Now, all of these are volcanoes. Every one of these here, they're all 100% of them are volcanoes. And that's because the juice that's in there is festering. Normally, I would imagine it would just spit out every now and then or something. I don't know. But it's been there for a very long time, and the biology now up in this area is thawing out, so no longer is that biology being, like frozen in a freezer. And the same thing's happened down in Spur, all the way down the line, and the same thing everywhere around the world. Greenland, same issues there, Iceland, all over, everywhere, North and South Poles. anywhere it was frozen before, it's thawing out. When it thaws out, Russia's another disaster. Anywhere they had tundra, it's just going to collapse, explode. It's just, and belching methane gases. And I don't see any solution to it, so that's all I have to say. I don't see a solution. I like to throw a big party about it, this whole thing, but it's I don't see a solution. You know, I'm looking at Scorpzilla and I'm thinking, wow, if it started way up here, which I just showed you, I believe that is the source of some of this venom, and that's why it popped down a little bit, because that popped up a little bit, basically. And I'm thinking, boy, that's crazy. Why wouldn't it just make it back here? And then I realized, look at Typhon. Typhon runs all the way from his gut all the way up this way. This one runs all the way from here, which is probably into his gut area. It's after his shoulder. It's up in your chest, heart, and so forth. It's probably right in this area. And it's flowing all the way down this way. Scorpzilla is just the opposite. It's being made down here and moving up, spitting out this way. Now, could he spit out? I don't know. I know he could jab you. I imagine he wouldn't have both, but I don't know. Well, it's one of those things. But let me show you why I could say it could run his whole body just like it does Typhon. All right, this is where Typhon's venom is brewed, I believe. You see this stuff in here? Look at that. Look at that. This is some kind of distillery or something. I don't know what's going on in here, but it's making some nasty stuff. And you can see the same colors I'm going to be showing you in a minute. Look at this. This is horrifying looking. Look at that. This is where this noxious stuff is being brewed that he spit out at the fish, which dissolved the fish. Look, this is where the green stuff, you see this green stuff right here? If anybody says to me, that's just a natural landscape, well, I would say that person is out of their freaking mind. I mean, come on. All right, just look at this. This is a nasty land. This is the worst I've ever seen of anything. Look at this. This is where this cocktail is being brewed. And this is some nasty looking stuff. But you can see all that green, as I just showed you. Now, where does it go? It goes all up his body from his gut. This is down in his guts here is being made. Now, where does it go? It ends up flowing through here and going up this little yellow fluffy stuff. It looks like, I always thought it was sort of fluffy, and then I kept really looking and looking, and I found out it's the source of all this toxin. Look at this. Yikes is all I can say. Now, somehow it navigates its way into this stream. And this thing here is picking up something. It looks to me like it's sucking stuff into here to create a stream rather than flowing down this way. And that stream comes over here, and the whole thing would have been squirted together up this yellow tube. All the way up. Let's follow it all the way up, because this is his throat. Let's just back out and see the whole thing at once. Here we were, just right here. This is where it all brewed up in his guts. Remember I showed you that nasty, nasty stuff? This is where he makes his nasty stuff. Then, again, it comes up and his head, and that's where it spit it out. So that's the terrain. He goes all the way from here over to here. He's nothing compared to Scorpzilla, but he's, you know, moderate size, 1,100 miles. Now, so here we were in the guts, and I mean we were in the guts. And out it comes to this yellow tube, which we were up somewhere about here. Now, he was in a fight. And he got his throat cut, and I think on more than one spot. These little runoffs, I think, might have been wax, and I think this was too. That was a cut. You see the blood running out of there? That's where he got cut by Zeus and his great and mighty sword, they said. Now, so some of that stuff ran out, but normally this yellow would have run all the way up to his head. Well, it still does. But that's it, where his throat was cut. Now, all the way up, all the way up. And then you see all this little flashy, fluty looking stuff. Going up. That's like you see on the side of the parades in China and Japan, I think, in Asian cultures primarily. Now, these are all the scales. These are all dragon scales that line his dragon-scaled throat. They could see this from the space station. There's absolutely no question. They look down at this and say, oh, that's nothing, don't worry about it. Well, you got pareidolia. Yeah, you got... It's absolutely amazing. I've been showing this for 10 years now. And I haven't had... Anyway. Up it goes. All that yellow stuff. And there was all that flashy stuff coming down. See it? Isn't that cool? Must have been something to see. And there's still that nasty yellow stuff. Now wait till you see how it transitions up here at the top. Absolutely incredible. So here's his head. You see it? Let me get my pointer here, my feather. Up comes his throat. And this is basically his head. They have a little bump, most of them, on their nose. This is a red flared eye, and it's exactly what was written in Apollodorus. He describes him exactly identical. And he was attacking a gigantic fish, which happens to be this, who changed, it was Ares, a god, changed himself into a fish. And all the gods did. There was, I think, there was like a dozen of them hanging around, and they all changed themselves into to animals to flee from Typhon, and Typhon got a hold of Ares. And you know, I don't know what happens to them after they die. Their bodies go. They're supposed to be immortal, the gods. So I don't think they. I don't know. Maybe they can just leave the bodies behind. I don't have any idea. But all I do know is that yellow stuff was coming all the way up. And right up at his throat, he's got beards. And he's got two really serious beards. So again, here comes that yellow, and then it comes down. You see it up here, and then it comes down. That's it. It stops. Now, where does it go when it comes to? These are two beards. One here, one here. This, again, is his throat. That's where he eats things, whatever he ate, I don't know. Have to be fairly good size. Now, again, the yellow comes over and dumps right across here. Where do you see this? This side turns green, all really nasty green. This side takes the yellow. It divides it back on the other side. We saw that it was yellow and green and all that. Now, where do you see this right here? Yikes. So this is one beard. Here's the other beard. Very beardy. These are serious beards. These are not your puppy beards. These are beards. And nasty looking, isn't it? And that's all this nasty juice. Now, where does it go? It goes over here into these, whatever these are. I don't know. You see these things coming up? What the heck is that? I believe that feeds the the spit in here. Because now it's turned green again. I believe these things feed the green stuff down into here on demand. Not all the time. It's just when he wants to spit at something or when he dies. But there's obviously some kind of glandular action going on here. That's, again, you have to look at this with just, you know, like a biologist, a scientist, or somebody that wants to really understand, not just, oh, that's nothing, that's nothing. It is something, and it is something, a lot of something. So this is serious, serious stuff. But again, I don't know if it's going to do much to change your life. Your life is going to happen. Whatever happens is going to happen. Now, this I think is tonsils or something. What's going on there? Is there so much to look at? It blows me away. It just takes a lot of time to look at this stuff. There's something going on there. Anyway, all of this stuff comes out, and the green goes this way. Now, that's going to go down and kill the fish. But something else happens from his nose. Something comes over out of this area. Remember the yellow? I don't know how it reemerges, but it somehow comes back out here. And this comes down like this to hook up with this green and explodes. And then it showers down on the fish. Right here. So remember what we saw. The yellow stuff out of the beard goes green. Right here. You got Google Earth. You should, if you really want to understand this, it takes time. You can't do this in 5 minutes. And all this is coming down. Now you got to get down close to it to really see the intensity of this stuff. This stuff is just, it's hard to believe it's as nasty as it is, but it's nasty. And I know the fish found that out because it ate right through his scales. This is some kind of toxic, venom, fiery, melty, destructive stuff. And it came back out of his nose. You see right there, that's the tip of his nose. And they said they would snort fire and breathe fire out of their nose, and that's pretty fiery. And it's coming down with all that nasty stuff. And the whole thing is showering down on that fish. And that's the fin of the fish. So let's turn this around a little bit so we get that perspective right there. Now, so again, Typhon with his nasty stomach juice coming up, spitting down on the fish. The fin, you could live without a fin, I suppose, but this is the vital flesh. Now there was scales on that like there is down here. You see the scales? And they go this way. So the fish would go that way. Otherwise, if it was going this way, the scales would open up. So the direction of that fish, and you can see it's pretty obvious if you take your time and look. This is the tail. You see this is the body, the lower end of the fish. Comes around, the tail comes up, and it has all that fin coming down. I think it was a flatfish. And this, I believe, is the eye, one of them. I'm pretty sure that's an eyeball, although I can't be positive. That was my estimation, that was an eyeball. And this one over here might have been one that was destroyed. Somehow they have really strange looking eyes on flatfish. But anyway, it's a fish. Forget that part. It was going this way. See the scales going back this way? That's the way a fish would go. Now, here's where it ate through his vital flesh. And I've shown this another bazillion times. And I showed you up on the hills there. This is the same stuff. These little tiny capillaries are running out of the veins. The arteries. The red stuff is arteries. Anytime you see red, it's vital flesh. Vital blood. It's ready to do some work. And that's why things grow in it. You see that right here in the middle of the desert? That's stuff growing there. You don't see it growing here. This is dead. That's because there's nothing left to eat. It still has stuff to eat here. But then it gets down to the capillaries, which I showed you up in the mountains. The exact same thing. They come down and you end up with the veins, where it dumps all the used blood in there. And way over on this side is where the green came through and got through into his flesh. You see right over here? It came down here and This tried to push it away and seemed to have worked a little bit, but down here, it broke through. And that's eaten into his flesh. All the other places, it got through the scales, but I think here it got a little deeper. And this is where the lymph fluids are going to try to absorb that, and they come down to the lymph nodes, and they killed the lymph nodes because they can't absorb all that toxic stuff fast enough. It's just too much toxin. You see it all coming in? This is a lymph node. It's supposed to come in with the pink stuff and clean it all up and go back out pink. Well, no. It's dead. It's not going out pink. And that's because this thing died from trying to absorb all that nasty stuff. You see, these are the filters. You're supposed to bring that stuff through the filters, clean it up a little bit, bring it into here, and there's supposed to be bacteria in here that makes enzymes that break that stuff down. But the bacteria in here was killed by the toxins coming down to kill it. And that's basically what disease is. It's basically the same thing. It comes in and it kills your bacteria, so your bacteria can't provide the nutrition and the enzymes you need to live. It's coming out dead. There's nothing left to it. So this is pretty deadly stuff, man, in a bunch of ways. And that whole row of lymph nodes totally destroyed. And of course, the fish is dead here. I guess he's dead. This is the kind of thing that makes you, what do you do? And don't forget, like I said, I showed you his head and all his little throat and everything coming down. And here's his tail way back here. And I think he got cut way back here on his tail. Might have been cut there, and I'm pretty sure he got cut right here. And all this is transition metals running off of these dragon scales, which are his tail. And then at the very end of his tail, he has feathers. So these creatures were just staggeringly large. And it's up to you to accept it or just dismiss it. If it doesn't mean anything to you, well, that's fine. I find it fascinating, and I like to look at the ancient texts and see if I can determine anything that could help my eternity, which is basically where I'm looking at now. I'm looking at Jesus Christ, as far as I'm concerned, came here to warn us that all that crazy stuff that nobody could ever accept was true. And that's why he spoke in parables. He couldn't talk about, there was just gigantic, there's no evidence. There was never any evidence until I found the mud fossils. Once I found the mud fossils, it flooded out, and everything I looked at was biology, and it still is. Only it's just not moving anymore. And most of it is a product of the Great Flood, where the oceans boiled. And Harvard just admitted it. They said, yes, they claimed it was something 4 times bigger than Mount Everest, slammed into our Earth and created a gigantic boiling the oceans. They said it. That's them, not me. Well, I say it too. I said it long ago. And Velikovsky said it before. The Colburn Bible said it before anybody. The Colburn Bible said the destroyer came and boiled the oceans and destroyed the trees. Now, here's the key. When that happened, most of the cellulose stuff is not similar to flesh. When flesh boils and so forth, they boil out all the bloody stuff out of it. And then through the fascia, which is the membranes, it allowed things to come in, the transition metals, and to stabilize things, like this bone. All right, they say, oh, a bone, that's not a bone. Yes, it is. That's a bone. It's a rock now. That's where the artery and vein or nerves went up through to this is probably a wrist bone or something like that. All right, and it broke right off. And that's the tiniest little piece of bone left in there. I have all the information about this, and I'm basically one of the only ones on Earth that understands this stuff now. And I have all the evidence right here in my shop. It's gigantic hair follicles. I have a 3-foot long fingertip, which I obviously can't move around. And that's been DNA tested, and it's human DNA. 3 feet long, just a fingertip. And it still has a fingernail and the fingerprints Shown this stuff over and over and over. So right now it's just denialism. So I'm hoping that now we got Goach and we got Trump and everything's truth social and truth this and truth that. Let's see. Because in the last 15 years, I had not one single return email from anybody involved in our government. Or I did get some with Yale, and that's going to be a nightmare. Well, it is a nightmare, but I'm hoping it'll turn out to be different after Trump takes a look at what happened. Anyway, this is, we're in a new world, and if you can't deal with it, I don't know what to say. That's what I found out. No, I'm perfectly happy, deluded, stay away from me. Well, I don't think that's right, especially when you're teaching kids that this is all nonsense. Don't look at that. Don't go over, stay away from Roger. Put him in the back of the class, shut him up. Well, I've had it for 15 years. I think I'm done with it. All right, I love you all. This is reality. And when we get back to all the things that I've been showing you, that's the fascia. These are the balls that come out of there, laying all around the earth, everywhere. Moki marbles, stromatolites they call them. They're not stromatolites. They're these things, only their moss is eating the flesh that was still left in them. You see that? That's the skin. That's the flesh with all these balls that were in the anchors. And the same thing was here, only that all of that was eaten up by whatever, and it ran off as mud, just like this is mud. These are obviously in a dry environment. So I don't know what else I can show you, but anyway, Alaska, I think Spur is okay. I think it might be fine. Because this is where we're getting the activity that's shaking and blowing up. Out here, Etka popped. And down the other end, it popped down there. So I think that system is separate from the digestive system. I know it's separate from the digestive system. How much it can affect it, I don't know. But these kind of things are not accidental. There's something going on with this biology which I have never seen before. It's as strange as it gets, but it is, Scorpzilla is pretty strange. And then this is Yellowstone. These are two lungs. They're basalt. Basalt is made out of collagens and kerogens. Basalt is, they have plagioclases and structurally more strong than bloody tissue. Because these lungs have to do this all day long. Well, forever, until you're done. And now this is what they call basaltic melt. This is rhyolithic melt. This is the esophagus until it comes up to the caldera at the top where all the stuff bubbles off. And that's why this is not going to explode, in my opinion. Highly unlikely this will explode because it has a vent to just continuously remove that excessive heat. You might see a lot more caldera action, yes. You may see a lot more bubbling, but I don't think you're going to see enough to make this thing explode. If you saw a ton of bubble in there, just really, then I'd be concerned. But that's what you'd have to see first, not just what they're seeing now. All right, as far as I can determine for what I'm looking at, this is some kind of an organ. I don't know what. It could be a lung. And this is, I believe the fluid is moving this direction and coming down into here. That I'm not sure. It could be going that direction. But when I see the excessive amount of heat here, I would say this is the driving force and it's bleeding it off here. Now, the whole thing though, this is vascular network of some sort on a creature's body, a gigantic creature. This is not going to explode catastrophically. I can't possibly see that happening. It's going to continue to do this. It's being fed by something. It could be a heart, it could be a liver, or it could just be the contents of the body. that has to escape from somewhere, and it's finding these tubing networks to be the best place to escape. Okay, we're going to look at Iceland's volcano, but I got exactly what I expected. This is the chemistry, and the chemistry of Iceland lava is made up of basalts and rhyolites and intermediate rocks, which are, they're melted, but they're not exactly the same. They're the mixture of the two. That's a lung and arteries, and it's identical to Yellowstone. Remember this: basalts and rhyolites. Here's Yellowstone. Here's two lungs. That's basaltic melt. Basaltic melt. What is basalts? Basalts are the rubbery, gooey stuff that makes a lung be able to absorb for your whole life. Now, then you had rhyolites. Remember, he said basalts and rhyolites. Here's the rhyolites, which is a cartilage sort of stuff that's in your throat and blood and muscly sort of stuff, redder stuff. Same thing here, and it goes all the way up into the caldera where all that heat, it goes away. Now you see, transition, basalt, rhyolithic melt, same thing. And I saw one thing in Icelandic one that looked like a lung to me. Now, I don't know whether the lung was blowing out, which in this case it is. The lungs are blowing out their heat because they're compacted. Now this was on the surface. It looked like the lung was right on the surface. And it might have been taking blood like from upside down where the heart would be underneath and forcing it up into the lungs. I think that's what's going on. Let me show you that. Now it looks to me like this is really the hot spot. So I would say this is pushing this down into the lung where it's dissipating, and I think that's a lung. This is what lungs look like. Could it be pushing blood into this cavity and then it's dissipating into all of these other little areas, which are the alveoli of the lung? Possibly. Is there another lung over there? Possibly. Is it sending out the blood magma this direction? It seems to me it is, but I don't know. Could it be coming from there and then hitting here and be restricted and getting really burnt up? I don't know. So that's what I need to know. Is it going this direction or is it going this direction? This direction or that direction? But that's biology to me. That's not just it just ran off as it wanted to. No, it would flow in basically a tube-ish style thing. This is running into cavities that are available for that stuff to run into. That's an organ. See, this whole thing is vascular network, but it's being fed by something that has got a lot of energy pushing into this. Now, what's coming out in that lava? What is that lava actually, the material in it? That would give us a hint as to where it's coming from. If you could determine anything, I don't know, I haven't ever worked with lava, but I would imagine we could find out whether it was organic lava or whether it was like blood or whatever. Because I know underneath, I showed you underneath Yellowstone, hold on. This is underneath Yellowstone. They have found the rhyolithic melt, which is up here, which is totally different. It's cartilage and so forth. And this is the membrane-ish stuff, basalt. It's kind of hard to tell you exactly what's going on, but these are the lungs in Yellowstone. That's the caldera, and that's basically the throat. These are his tonsils. I don't know. All I'm telling you is what I'm seeing. And, we've seen that all of this stuff, this is not just some runoff of, people got to come to their senses and start to see what's in front of their faces. Hey, Caesar. It's crazy not to look at what's in front of us. Look at that. Is that just accident? You think that's something that, nobody can explain these things, so they just leave them alone. Like this here, what is it? It's dragon scales. They're way out here, they're way over here. This is the middle of the throat, and this is another set of them on that side. Why? Well, because the dragon died there, Roger. Well, okay, I'll go along with that. The membranes, absolutely enormous membranes out in Oregon. This is Tyson's Mudfossil Adventures. He's out there, and that's 6 foot thick membrane. 6 feet thick. And they're all over the world. This is over in the United Kingdom. It's washing all that flesh down, and you end up with all these balls and mud, which is the flesh. When the flesh melts into eroded, it turns into red mud. You see it all over. It's just dirt. And these are the balls, the same as these balls, only all the moss that's on these. These are not stromatolites, they call them anything they want. But this is being eaten by moss after it falls out of the walls. And this has got, everything was eaten, and they're just left with the stony little ball in the middle. And this, in us, it's this big. Look at this. It's, people got to start to understand. And see those balls there? These are balls that are being eaten right now. Eventually, these will be milky marbles. If it was turned into a desert, they would eat everything that was available, and then, oops, you know, all of the different erosion would take place, and all the mud would run away, and you have the balls, the milky marbles would be laying everywhere. The mud fossil, you know, theory solves everything. But you have to be able to put your mind big enough up to see a gigantic fish and a gigantic dragon and gigantic hair, which is the beard of Scorpzilla, and be able to understand the colors, which are the transition metals and the different oxidation states of blood and so forth. And then be able to look at something like this and say, yikes, and then want to investigate it further. That's the key. I can show you all kind of pictures all day long. You say, ooh, that's nice. Ooh, that's nice. That's like looking at an art gallery. They're nice, but what it, you know, is, you know, I got to be honest with you. Art's wonderful. An excellent artist it's amazing. What are they thinking when they're drawing it? This ancient art really is hard to understand. I mean, whoa. And but anyway, I like to be able to investigate this kind of stuff, almost like it was art, because there's a source that it resonates from. It doesn't just come from nowhere. It's just not just laying here for no reason. And we maybe have a reason. It's up to you. You got to make your own decision about that. I've made my decision, and I literally found God and Jesus Christ through mud fossils. I'm not kidding. I know it sounds crazy. That's true. I had never had a clue that any of this could even come remotely close to being true. But I now am able to accept the truth, which is something that people can't accept. The smarter you are, the harder it is for you to realize truth. It's just incredible, the things I've discovered through this journey. And I mean, I'm talking journey. So anyway, we're going to see how this leads.